This is 200353 SM State of Michigan versus Annette Ely.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Ben Denham with P742804 for the people.
And good afternoon, Your Honor. May it please the court, Leanna Belcher on behalf of Ms. Ely, who's also present. Ma'am, can you state your name nice and loud?
Annette Ely.
Thank you. This matter was scheduled for bench trial today at 12:40 p.m. On agreement of the parties, the matter is being adjourned to June 30th, 2021 at 11:30 a.m.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Correct, Judge.
Thank you. There is another matter that the parties wish to take up.
Correct, Your Honor. We're asking to modify my client's bond conditions. The complainant in this case is my client's daughter. The CPS case has been closed. My client is clear to have contact with her daughter. We're asking that the bond be changed to no assaultive contact so the daughter can engage with the mother, her other siblings, and return back home.
The victim is okay with that, Judge. The people have no objection.
Thank you. The bond, as it is currently situated, will be amended to indicate that Ms. Ely is to have no assaultive contact with the alleged victim in this case, that being first name AIO''Lonia, last name Ely, EALEY. Anything else in this matter, Mr. Denowith?
No, Your Honor.
Anything else, Ms. Belcher?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. We're all set. Have a good day. Good luck to you, Ms. Ely.
Thank you. Have a better one.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Judge.
Have a good day, Judge.
Have a good day.
You too.
Who's the attorney on there, Washington?
Earl Washington.
Okay. I'll go see if he's here, I'll see what the status is of that. I know the prisoner's here. You want me to take that one out?
You can't go into it. Is everything muted? I'm gonna leave it like it is. Thank you. I'm just gonna leave it.
Don't
blank.
ask me.
Shush.
This is all good?
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully you don't go to sleep again.
You're the pro.
Okay. I'm coming. Today, I don't think we are.
Oh, what side are we on this side?
Yeah, that one.
Jerry box.
Are you really the officer in charge?
I'm not, yeah, I was the one that made the initial charges.
Right, but who is Castiglione?
He was the one that signed, did the warrant.
All right.
34th District Court,
Right,
now
that's who you
session, the
should
Honorable Lisa
call.
Martin Shiner.
You may be seated. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
This is 201469 FY State of Michigan versus Calvin Ware. Your appearances, please.
Ben Dunaway for the people.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Earl Washington, Neighborhood Defender Services of Detroit, 31383, on behalf of Mr. Kelvin Ware.
And your name, sir?
Calvin Weir.
Thank you. This matter is scheduled for a live examination today. Are the people ready to proceed? I'm sorry, the matter is scheduled for a live exam today. Are you ready to proceed, Mr. Dinowith?
People are ready, yes.
Mr. Washington, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor, we're ready to proceed.
Are there any preliminary matters?
Yes, Your Honor. The people have put Mr. Washington on notice. We're going to seek to add count 4 felony firearm pursuant to MCL 750.227B. And the underlying felony for that would be count 2, fleeing and eluding the police, 3rd degree.
And Your Honor, I've advised Mr. Ware of the prosecution's intention. After being aware of that, Mr. Ware still wishes to hold the preliminary examination. Is that correct, Mr. Ware?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Washington. Mr. Dinowith, are you ready to call your first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. My first witness is the officer in charge, Officer Sheehan, who's seated at the table, and we'd ask that he be allowed to remain for the entire exam.
Any objection, Mr. Washington?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you.
You're up.
Would you stop right there for 1 second and spell your first and last name for her?
Adam, Adam, Sheehan, Sheehan.
And be careful, there's a little bit of an incline. Come right over around here with me, please. Raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. May I have a seat? Mr. Denowith.
Thank you, Judge. Sir, how are you employed?
I'm a police officer with the Huron Township Police Department.
And were you employed in that manner on August 26th, 2020?
Yes,
Were you working that day?
yes.
Were you assigned to some specific job or duty on that day?
I was assigned to the traffic unit,
And what were you doing as part of the traffic unit?
running radar enforcement on 275.
Okay. Were you in a vehicle of some type?
Yep, I was in my semi-marked patrol vehicle.
What does semi-marked mean?
It's slick top.
Is there anything that identifies it as a police vehicle?
Yep, it has markings on every corner or every side of the police car.
Okay. And did there come a time during your traffic enforcement that something notable happened that brings you to court today?
Yes, as I was running stationary radar enforcement on northbound 275, I observed a white Jeep traveling at a high rate of speed, well over the posted speed limit. My radar confirmed at 86 miles an hour in a 70. And I initiated I pulled out onto that vehicle while I was in the far left lane, initiated my lights, and at that time, the white Jeep then darted across 3 lanes of traffic to get onto the exit ramp to Sibley from northbound 275.
All right, approximately what time of day was this?
As afternoon.
I'm sorry?
It was like sometime in the afternoon,
Okay, so daylight,
daylight.
any problem determining that it's a white Jeep?
No.
Anything impair your visibility or anything?
Nope, it was sunny, weather was clear that day.
Okay, and you said you initiated a traffic stop, is that your words?
Yes.
What does that mean?
I pulled behind the vehicle and then activated my emergency lights.
Okay, approximately how close did you get to this vehicle?
I'd say 2 car lengths.
Okay, then you said they got off in an exit ramp?
Yep, as soon as I activated my emergency lights, they darted across the 3 lanes of traffic without using their signal to get off to Sibley Road, which is the exit ramp right there from northbound. And I was able to stay with them at that time.
Okay, were you able to see any of the occupants of the vehicle at that time?
Not at that time, no.
Okay. Where did the vehicle go after the exit ramp?
While we were on the exit ramp, my lights were still activated. I did activate my siren. The vehicle continued to slow roll on the exit ramp and then ran the stop sign and then turned eastbound on Sibley.
And are you still in pursuit?
At that time, yes. That's when I called it out as a vehicle not stopping.
All right, what happened next?
There was a traffic backup due to the light right there at Wayne Road in Sibley. The vehicle then went southbound onto Warman Road, which is a residential dirt road. I still had my lights and my siren activated. I was right behind the car. I did notice that the driver's side door was open and it looked like somebody was about to run out. I was advising my dispatcher of that. And then we continued southbound onto Warman. Speeds weren't too fast because I believe he was about to jump out at that time, but I was right on the vehicle, and then it decided to turn into a driveway of, I believe, 19601 Warman Road, and then continued through the front yard, through the ditch, and then went back onto southbound Warman.
All right, so you're still driving at this point?
Still right behind him.
Okay, what happens next?
I observed a black male wearing a white shirt in the driver's seat. Still didn't observe anybody in the passenger seat or rear drive. I was just concentrated on who was driving. I got back out on southbound Warman, and as we were continuing southbound, I had my partner coming northbound in his fully marked patrol vehicle, lights and sirens activated. And that was when the white Jeep veered to the right, went into a ditch, and then ultimately struck a tree.
Okay, was there damage to the white Jeep?
Yes, there was heavy front end damage.
After that impact, did anything notable happen?
I observed a black male wearing a white t-shirt get out and up from the ditch side or the driver's side of the vehicle into the ditch. and proceeded to run southbound through the ditch.
How close were you to the driver of the vehicle?
2 car lengths.
Did you get a look at him at that point?
I was able to get the backside of him, yes,
Okay, so
as he was running.
at that point, you weren't able to see his face or anything like that?
Not yet, no.
What did you do?
I had my service weapon drawn. I ordered the driver to stop. He did not. He continued running south through the ditch and then ultimately went westbound into the tree line, and that's when I lost sight. As I was about to start running, I did notice that our passenger side front and rear door began to open on the vehicle in the ditch. And that's when I chose to stay with the vehicle and held the occupants at gunpoint until my backup arrived.
All right. And you said occupants?
There was two other passengers in the car.
What seats were they in?
There was a female in the front seat passenger and then a male in the rear passenger side.
Did either of those people get out of the car?
Not until we secured them out of the car. They were beginning to open the door and I held them at gunpoint.
Did they comply with you telling them not to get out?
Yes.
And you said we secured them?
Myself and Corporal Grant.
Okay. When does Corporal Grant show up?
He was literally coming down the road as they crashed.
Was there anyone that showed up before Corporal Grant?
No.
Did either of these passengers go near the driver's side door before Corporal Grant arrived?
No.
And can you describe the area of the crash?
It was a dirt road, residential. The ditch was overgrown and very bushy.
Was there anyone else around?
No.
Are you familiar with the area through your work?
Yes.
Is that a heavily trafficked area?
Just by the residents that live on the road.
Okay. Is there a residence close to where this crash occurred?
I would say probably within about 100 feet on the east side.
How far did you say?
Within about 100 feet. I think there was a driveway within about 100 feet
Okay.
on the east side of the road.
All right. And then when Corporal Grant arrives, do you deal with either one of the occupants specifically?
I just held them at gunpoint while Corporal Grant got them in handcuffs and secured.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I held them at gunpoint until Corporal Grant got the rear male passenger handcuffed and secured in his vehicle, and then we got the female passenger out. She was complaining of injuries from the crash.
Which door did the female get out of?
Front passenger.
Which door did the male get out of?
Rear passenger.
So did anyone of the occupants ever go on the driver's side of the car?
Of the 2 passengers, no.
No. Oh, okay. Only the driver was ever on the driver's side of the car.
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever see the driver again?
After he disappeared into the tree line, no. Not until after he was taken into custody.
Okay. What was the driver wearing, if you remember?
White t-shirt. I did notice braids or dreads.
And were you able to observe anything about the build of the driver
No.
or the height?
He was down into a ditch that was overgrown, so he was already below where, I guess, normal street level. So I couldn't really get a good description of how tall he was.
And you didn't chase after him, did you?
No, not after he ran on foot, no.
What did you do in relation to the driver?
After he got out of the car and ran, nothing after that.
Did you make any statements to any of your partners?
Oh, I advised that there was a black male wearing a white t-shirt running southbound and went into the trees.
Okay. And did you advise them in person or some
Over
other
the
way?
radio.
Sorry?
Over the radio.
Okay. And did you ever become aware of anyone else chasing after the driver?
No. Corporal Grant stopped in the area where he disappeared in the tree line, but he wasn't able to see him.
Okay. And did you see anything notable around this car?
I did not.
Okay. I do not have anything else for this officer.
Thank you. Mr. Washington.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, good afternoon, officer.
Good afternoon, sir.
All right. Officer, you indicated that you never did see the driver's face, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you indicated that because the occupant, or at least the driver, was in the ditch, you couldn't really estimate how tall he was, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you weren't able to see, before you came in contact with the occupants, the other occupants of the car, you didn't know whether anybody was in the car, besides the driver. You didn't know whether anybody else was in the car besides the driver. Would that be a fair statement?
Yep, until the door started opening.
Until the door started. Okay. You put out a description over the dispatch, is that correct? Or over your radio? Okay. And you indicated it was a black male with what, white t-shirt?
Correct.
Okay. And was that the only description that you put out?
I believe I also advised that he had braids or dreads.
Yeah, yeah, great, okay. All right. And that was the only description you put out, is that correct?
As far as I remember, yes.
Okay. All right, I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. Any redirect, Mr. Denowith?
No, thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Officer Sheehan, thank you. You may step down. Your next witness?
Can I go grab him, and can I also have 1 minute to talk to the officer in charge?
Absolutely. Was that a secret?
I don't. No secret there. Did you see how fast? 82 to 87 and 45.
Have you stopped right here? Spell your first and last name for her, please.
First name is Anthony, Anthony. Last name is Grant, Grant.
This guy's.
Thank you, Corporal Grant. You raise your right hand for me, please. You swear affirm testimony you've given this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Thank you much. Have a seat. Mr. Denowith.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Grant, how are you employed?
I'm a police officer with the Huron Township Police Department.
And were you so employed on August 26, 2020?
Yes, I was.
And were you working that day?
Yes, sir.
Did you have the opportunity to respond to a traffic crash?
I did.
What was the location of that?
It was on Warman Road, south of Sibley, between Sibley and Huron River Drive.
And what type of vehicle?
It was a, you know what? I would have to review the report. I'm not exactly
Okay, let me,
Sure, the details of the vehicle.
You got a copy of the report right here? I got a copy of the report right
you
here.
got his,
Yeah.
may I approach the witness, Judge?
Yes.
Okay. And, so for the record, I'm gonna show him the officer in charge's report. And just read this to yourself and let us know if that refreshes your memory as to the type of vehicle.
Yes, it does. It was a white Jeep.
Okay.
Corporal, would you keep your voice up for me, please?
I apologize.
Thank you.
A white Jeep.
And what was the condition of the vehicle at that point?
When Officer Sheehan called out that he was pursuing a vehicle south on Warman Road that was not stopping, I was actually on Huron River Drive, so I proceeded to assist coming from the opposite direction. So I was headed north on Warman Road towards Officer Sheehan and the white Jeep, also with lights and sirens on. At that point, I witnessed the white Jeep veer off to the road into the ditch, which would have been on the west side of Warman Road.
Was there damage to the vehicle?
Front end damage.
And how quickly did you arrive on scene after the crash?
Like I said, I witnessed the crash itself happen, so I was there in probably less than a minute.
Okay. You're like, did you see anything notable happen after the crash?
I did not see the driver actually exit the vehicle because of the overgrown conditions of the ditch itself. The grass was very high. Officer Sheehan transmitted.
You can't really repeat what he said.
Okay.
So let me ask you this, when you arrived on scene, who all was there?
It was just Officer Sheehan on scene and the front seat passenger and rear seat passenger.
Is there any doors to the car open?
Yes.
Which one?
The driver's side door as well as the front seat passenger door and the rear seat passenger door.
Is there anyone in the driver's seat of the car?
No, there was not.
Where do you go first?
I assist Officer Sheehan to address the two subjects on the passenger side of the vehicle.
And do you deal with either one specifically, or you're both like tag teaming one, or what?
He's watching both subjects as I remove one subject at a time, secure them in handcuffs and place them into a vehicle.
All right. Who did you pull out first?
Backseat passenger.
Is that a male or a female?
It was a male.
You put him in handcuffs?
I do.
Where did you take that person?
He was placed in the rear of my vehicle.
Okay. Then did you do something with the other person?
The female passenger was then asked to step out of the vehicle as well. She was complaining of some injuries, so she herself was not handcuffed, but was then placed into the back seat of Officer Sheehan's vehicle.
And which door did she exit the vehicle from?
She was the front seat passenger.
Did either one of them ever go on the driver's side of the car that you saw?
No, they were both in the seats. They were
And they
perspective
both got
seats.
out from the passenger side of the car?
That's correct.
After these people are secured, what do you do?
After they're secured, the vehicle itself was still running, and because of the thick overgrown grass, I was afraid that the vehicle itself was going to overheat, maybe even start a fire. I walked to the driver's side to reach in to shut the vehicle off, and that's when I observed a gun in the grass right underneath the driver's side door.
All right, what type of gun is this?
Again, I would have to review my report too.
Is your report in there, or would reviewing the officer in charge's report refresh your recollection?
My report's attached to this as well. It was a supplement to the original report.
Just take a look and tell us which report you actually used to refresh your memory.
Just using the property portion of the report.
So don't tell us what that says, just read it to yourself and let us know if that refreshes your memory.
Yes.
Okay. What type of gun are we talking about?
It was a Springfield Arms 45 caliber black handgun.
All right. Did you make it safe?
I did.
Is it a real gun?
Yes.
All right. Did you see anyone else in the area of the gun while you were on scene?
No.
And can you tell us like exactly where the gun is in relation to the car?
If the driver's side door was left open as it was, the gun was directly down underneath the frame of the driver's side, sitting in the grass.
Okay. Is there anything on top of it?
No.
Is there anything to indicate the gun had been there for a few days?
No.
Are you familiar with that area through your employment?
Yes.
Is that sort of like a heavily trafficked area?
No.
All right. And you put that gun on evidence?
I did.
Anything else? No further questions for this witness.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Washington?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. All right, good afternoon, Officer Grant.
Good afternoon, sir.
All right. Officer Grant, you came on the scene, well, you said you saw the vehicle crash, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And did you see the occupant when the occupant left the car?
Which occupant?
The driver of the white Jeep.
I did not.
Okay, then. So you saw the crash, you saw the damage, but you didn't see the driver flee the vehicle. Is
I
that
did
correct? Okay. And how long did you get to the right up to the car after you first saw the Jeep?
When I first saw the Jeep, and from the time I then put it into park, it was probably about a minute.
Okay. And you indicated that when you went up to the Jeep, you say that you saw the weapon in the grass. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Would it be fair to say you didn't know how that weapon got there?
I did not.
Okay. And you did you take the weapon and did you make any request to have that weapon fingerprinted?
I did not.
Okay. Now, when you were in your vehicle, was your vehicle mounted with a camera?
Yes.
Okay. And did you ever see the film from that camera?
No.
Or any recording? Okay. To your knowledge, did Officer Sheehan, did he have activated video on his car?
Yes.
Okay. Now, was your video operating?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know whether his was operating?
I do not know. I couldn't say yes or no on that.
Oh, okay. All right. I have no further questions.
Any redirect, Mr. Denworth?
No, thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Thank you, Corporal.
But people do have another witness. Let me see if he's back.
He said he'd be here in about 10 minutes.
You can go.
About 10 minutes from now? Or 10 minutes, 5 minutes ago?
10 minutes, 5 minutes ago.
I can go out and take a look if you'd like.
Thank you.
Yeah, Lieutenant Gerard, just.
Yeah.
He's walking in right now. You're done, me, sir?
Yes, you can go.
All right, thank you.
That's what.
Good afternoon. I'm going to have you stop short right here. Spell your first and last name for Mary Ann, please.
Leo, Elio, Gerard, Girard.
Thank you. You can step around here with me and raise your right hand, please. Do you swear affirm the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you much. Have a seat. Mr. Dinowith.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Gerard, how are you employed?
I'm a police officer with the Huron Township Police Department, currently assigned to the detectives here.
And in the course of your employment, did you have the opportunity to speak with someone named Calvin Ware?
I did.
And do you see Mr. Ware in the courtroom?
I do.
What is Mr. Ware wearing?
Green jumpsuit and black face mask.
Judge, may the record reflect the identification of the defendant, Calvin Ware?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. When did you speak to Mr. Ware?
It was around the 26th of August of 2020.
Okay. And let me just ask you, did you look at your report to get the date?
I just looked
I'm
down,
not-
but it's not actually at my report. It's the actual police report for the date of the incident.
We just kind of want to know if you're refreshing your memory.
Yes, sir, I did. I did with a copy of report 2000168114.
Okay. And that did refresh your memory?
It did, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Where was it that you had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Ware?
I spoke with him in the interview room at Huron Township Police Department.
And did you speak with him more than once?
I do not have a recollection of speaking with him more than once. In reviewing my report, I see that he was spoken to at least twice because I wrote down that it was a second interview. My expectation is that his first was while we were walking him from the home he was arrested in front of to the police car.
Okay. Prior to speaking to Mr. Ware, did you read him his rights?
I did, yes, sir.
And were those the standard Miranda rights?
They were Huron Township Miranda form.
So your department has like a card or something?
We have a full 8x10 sheet of rights that we used for the Miranda.
And did you read those to the defendant?
I did. My personal execution of those is to have the defendant read them himself out loud.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that and speak up a little?
I personally have defendants or people that I'm interviewing read the rights themselves out loud and then ask if they understood each right before initialing that they did so.
Did Mr. Ware initial?
I would have to refer to the rights form, sir. That would be in the OIC's packet.
May I approach the witness, Judge?
You may.
This copy, or first, second.
Okay. I'm gonna hand you 2 sheets of paper. Can you tell us what those are?
These are the Huron Township Police Department rights form.
And do those relate to the same person?
They do.
Which person?
Calvin Ware, sir.
Okay. And why are there 2?
The first one, if I'm reading the signature right with the witness. It looks like it's Officer Hickman. And it says HTPD jail at 8:30. So my
So that one
personal
was not
assumption is
done
this
by
was
you.
done by Officer Hickman while booking possibly.
Okay.
The one that you would be requesting in regards to me, sir, is dated 8/26 of 2020 at 12:45. And it is initialed in each location and then signed at the bottom by Defendant Calvin Moore.
Is that 12:45, like after midnight or right after noon?
That would be, I believe, the afternoon, sir.
Okay.
I
Well, regardless of the
I
time.
believe it would be afternoon.
Do you remember going over those rights with Mr. Ware?
yes,
And did he initial that form?
he did.
Do you remember him initialing the form?
Yes,
And do you remember discussing the form with him?
yes.
Was there any problem with Miranda at all?
No, sir.
Did Mr. Ware understand his rights?
He did.
Did Mr. Ware agree to speak with you?
Yes.
And what were you going to speak with Mr. Ware about?
The incident at hand, the fleeing elude, weapon and narcotics.
Did you ask him about it?
I did.
What did you ask him about first?
The vehicle, why it was why he was driving.
And did he respond?
He did.
What did he
Judge,
say?
I'm going to place an objection. I believe it's incumbent upon the prosecution to, before any statement is admitted, it's incumbent upon the prosecution to establish the corpus delicti of, in fact, both crimes, both the concealed weapons count and the fleeing and eluding count. I don't think that the prosecution has established that. So before that's established, I don't think any statement can be made to make out an element or any element of the offense. So therefore, I would object to the admission of the statement.
I believe it has been established, Judge. I believe all of the elements of all the charged offenses have already been proven to a probable cause standard. The only thing left to prove is who the person meeting the description given by the first witness actually is.
Objection overruled. You may continue.
Okay. What did you ask Mr. Ware about first?
The vehicle, who it belonged to.
And what did he say?
I believe it was his cousin, he stated, had the vehicle as a rental.
Okay. Did you ever ask Mr. Ware who was driving the vehicle, or did he acknowledge who was driving the vehicle?
I did. I asked why the renter on record, his cousin wasn't driving, and he stated he was driving because she was tired.
Okay. And was that, well, just to be clear, which vehicle were you asking him about?
I believe it was a white Jeep.
Okay. Did he acknowledge that?
He did.
And did you go over the location that you were talking about?
I did. We spoke about the reason why he would not pull over for the officer. He stated he had a suspended license. He had no driver's license at the time. I asked where they were headed. He advised that they were headed to the airport to drop off the rear seat passenger, his other, I believe, another, maybe his brother, at the airport for a flight home.
And was the specific scene of the crash discussed?
You know, I do not recall.
Okay. Well, how did you determine that you were talking about the same thing?
When Defendant Ware was arrested, I was on scene. It was approximately a half hour to an hour after the actual incident occurred. We were called back to a private residence, several homes away from the original crash. I was one of the 3 arresting officers on scene, and while I arrested him at that point, I had asked him about his driving the vehicle, if he was injured, if who the person was in the vehicle with him, if they were injured. He acknowledged all those questions and answered them.
So you're pretty sure he was the driver of the car?
Yeah, 100%.
Anything else? Nothing else for this witness.
Thank you. Mr. Washington.
Good afternoon, officer.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah, officer, did you, reduce that, that to writing?
Did I reduce what?
I said, did you reduce that to writing,
The interview? I reduced it to a scaled in writing, yes. The interview itself is tape recorded.
Oh, okay. Now, when you placed Mr. Ware under arrest, how long was that after the accident?
I don't have an exact time. It was about a half hour to an hour, somewhere in that time zone.
Okay,
We had all cleared the original scene.
okay, all right. And how did you come about coming in contact with Mr. Ware?
A resident of Huron Township called stating that there was a guy at their house trying to use the phone. And we had the road blocked up, so I believe all the residents in the area were aware we were looking for a flee and elude driver.
Okay. And how long after his arrest did you interrogate Mr. Ware?
I am actually not sure, sir.
Okay, I mean, where did you interrogate him? Did you interrogate him at the place of the arrest, or was it at the police
No, at the
station?
place of arrest, I just asked brief questions regarding his physical health, if he was okay after the crash.
Okay.
If he knew if anybody else was injured in the crash.
Okay, so you interrogated him at the police station?
Yeah, it was within 24 hours.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay. Now, did you personally arrest Mr. Ware?
I was on scene at the arrest, yes.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, all right, I don't have further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Dinwiddie.
No, thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Please
you
step
very
down.
People have no further witnesses.
Thank you. Mr. Washington?
I have no witnesses, Your Honor.
Thank you. Argument?
Marked, sir. You need those marked.
Judge, at this time, the people are gonna move to bind over on count 1, 2, and the added count 4 felony firearm. Count 3 is a misdemeanor not subject to this hearing. So the people's first witness testified he attempts to perform the traffic stop on this white Jeep, and he told you the location. That's in Wayne County along the freeway. And then the white Jeep flees. He tells you he's got the lights and sirens going, the car's fleeing away from him, and then the car crashes. That's an accident. So that makes it a fleeing and eluding third instead of a fourth because of the accident. The officer testified it's a semi-marked car, he's got the lights and sirens going, he's performing his duties. So all the elements for count 2 were met there. Then you heard people's first witness, Officer Sheehan, testifies. He basically stays on scene and he said holds these 2 passengers at gunpoint until Grant, the second witness, showed up. And both officers told you no one else went anywhere near the driver's side of the car. It's not a heavily trafficked area. It's described as a dirt road. The car is crashed in a ditch. The second officer, Grant, who actually recovered the gun, said it was on top of the grass. There was nothing on it. It's right there, right next to the car door. He said it's a .45 caliber. He recovers it, puts it on evidence. And then the third witness, his testimony as it relates to this hearing can be summed up as defendant admitted that he was the driver. And the witness identified the defendant in the courtroom, and the court can see that the defendant matches the description that was given by Officer Sheehan. So the person matching the description admits to being the driver. So the admission to being the driver is tantamount to admission of count 2, would be my contention. The issue here is the gun in the constructive possession of the defendant, or was it in the possession of the defendant? And I think the court can conclude to a probable cause standard, the only way the gun got to that specific location right there, right where it's at under the driver's side door of the car, is that the defendant dropped it there. And you can conclude that because there's no one else in the area. It's right there underneath the door. There's no other way it could have got there. There's nothing on top of it as if it, would have been there for days, that there's going to be like leaves or whatever other debris from the street. It's a dirt road. It's not a heavily trafficked area. This isn't like somebody's dropping a gun on a main street or on the side of the freeway. It's a dirt road. The gun is found right there, right underneath the driver's side door where the defendant got out. So the court can reasonably conclude the defendant's the one that dropped it. And the court heard the testimony of how the defendant arrived on the scene. It was in a vehicle. So the court can conclude that the gun was concealed in the vehicle, which is count 1. And then the people's request to add count 4, that the defendant is in possession of the gun while he is fleeing from the police, would fit too. If the gun arrived on the scene with the defendant, he must have had it in his possession while he was committing count 2. So the people would ask the court to bind over on 3 felonies, and the misdemeanor goes along with it.
Thank you. Mr. Washington.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I just add to the earlier objections to what I've already made. It's our contention that the people have not made out either element. In terms of a description given, we have a general description of a man in t-shirt with braids, which could encompass innumerable amount of people. We don't think that identification was clearly made. It's also our contention that no one saw Mr. Ware with the weapon in his physical possession. The police indicate that when they first saw the weapon, it was laying in the grass. We don't know whether that was already there before the accident. We don't know by impact of the car whether a weapon unknown to Mr. Ware flew out of the vehicle as a result of that crash. So it's our contention that there's nothing connecting Mr. Ware to that weapon. Nobody sees him with the weapon. So we would ask that this matter be dismissed.
Judge, I would just say it's a probable cause standard, and there's the second witness testified. This is a Springfield 45, and the court can use the court's common sense and life experience to know this is an item with some value. This is not something people leave on the side of the road for no reason and never come back and get. It's not something you would find laying around. It's not a pop can or something that somebody's going to throw out of a car. And it's a dirt road. In the location that it's found, it's not like it's 10 feet from the car. It's like right there. He told you it's right there. So to a probable cause standard, I think the defendant was in possession of the gun. We'd ask the court to bind over.
Court's had the opportunity to hear the witnesses this afternoon and the arguments of the attorneys. And inasmuch as the testimony suggests that a crime was committed in Huron Township on August 26, 2020, those crimes being weapons carrying concealed, fleeing and eluding third degree, and now the added count of felony firearm, the court is going to bind over Mr. Ware as previously charged with the added count 4. The next court date in this matter will be arraignment on the information, which will be April the 14th, 2021 at 9 a.m. at Frank Murphy Hall of Justice. Mr. Ware's bond with any conditions will continue. Anything further, Mr. Denowith?
The court did add count 4, is that right?
I did, sir, yes.
Thank you. I'm deaf.
I'm sorry. I'm trying, Mr. Denowith. My apologies.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I can't read lips. Thank you very much, Judge.
Thank you. Anything further, Mr. Washington?
No, Your Honor, we have nothing further.
Thank you so very much. Have a good afternoon. Mr. Ware, please go with the officer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
$230. The next case. Mr. Denowith. Mr. Denowith. They just told me this afternoon, so I'm trying to be mindful, but you have to remind me to speak up.
Okay. Thank you, Judge.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's my fault.
No.
Nice to meet you, though.
Good to meet you. Thank you. You're not doing the 2:30?
No, I think Jane is because I have to go pick up my files for Westland.
Take care.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye, Judge.
Good to see you, Mr. Washington.
Oh, make sure to call somebody.
I just sprayed off in the air.
I am. Just right here.
Okay.
That's good. Wait, we're still sparking.
I know why it does it, I don't know.
Now I gotta get something to wipe the freaking counter off.
It's good.
Let me go get the paper towel.
Okay, you got another one?
Yeah. Live one. Hey. Oh, I know.
But if she able to put her color, she can.
Oh, I know. Let me open these doors. Let me, get some paper towel.
So I got a search warrant request last minute from Brooklyn. Okay. And PPG not given because of COVID. It's the first time I've seen that. Oh, we haven't given one in a year. Explain to me what's the concern. 'Cause that's the first time I've seen it in a year. Nobody else. The officer has to do it. It's just the proximity. Yeah, it's right there. So you're not doing an HGN either? They, I don't think they're doing it. Yeah, what about the other field front? I think they're doing walk and turn because they're, exactly, and they're doing lights, but I cannot believe that discussion. change the It's funny because they just came in, the chief just came in saying, hey, the board says the feds aren't doing anything with COVID anymore, so if you get it, you're on your own. So that's just what they want to do us. You know what I mean? Because now, now if they get it,
Oh, thanks.
right, so they're saying, if you get it, you're on your own. I don't know, it's a wreck. In reality. It is.
Yeah, I was, like I said, it's the first time I've seen that, and I can't tell you last time I saw it. You guys, your department for polio health.
Really? We don't.
I'm just not getting warrants.
Right, we don't even have blood work. Every person. It's broken, they can't get to do it because of the whole supply chain bullshit. What was that whole thing? Signatures and all that crap, so yeah, now it's like none of the machines are signed off on, I guess, so we can't get to do it. We've been doing blood for 8 months.
Would it be, better use?
Of course, we call it, right, nobody wants you in, so. All right, thanks, John.
All right, thanks, Neil. Be safe.
Then you can say you have. Must've been a tough life for him.
Yeah, I. Listen, I ain't the please, as long as you're laughing at me for doing something right.
I don't have my phone yet. Hey.
Well, there is a lot of stuff going on while they.
No, they can stop. Part more than close. Part of it, like,
He was filling
Oh, it
out the
smells
form
good in
that he
here.
had him fill out, that's how he
You guys-
found out.
Right, I'm
Grace?
glad he told me from when he was standing outside. What's wrong with these people?
My son's was in contact with some people a little over a week ago, so he went and got a COVID test on Monday. He didn't have the results back last night.
How does he find out? How did he find out? Like the person was playing, like, was the person symptomatic or they just was testing for something else?
He was at an event and then they all went out for like coffee afterwards on Tuesday night, kind of early Wednesday morning. And, about 4 or 5 of them. And then over the weekend, they both came down with symptoms and got it. And, he didn't know these guys that well. It was a girl that's a friend of his did. And so she called Michael and told him, and she went and got tested. He went and got tested. They're doing the long
He was
test
in
on
filling
that
out.
we're at. Anyway, so that's how we found out. And, my son's already had one.
All right, 34th District Court's now in session. The Honorable Lisa Martin presiding.
So,
Good afternoon. Why are you guys in the bay?
I don't know.
I cleaned this all up for you.
This
Am I
is
handing the dandy little Ghostbusters gun?
201711 FY, State of Michigan versus DeJohn Lewis.
Jane Gillis on behalf of the people.
And Christine Longstreet appearing on behalf of Mr. Lewis, who is here but not allowed into the building. Yana?
He's not allowed into the building. My officers made me aware of why.
But Judge, what I would say is that, I don't believe the people are ready.
We are not ready, Your Honor. The victim has not shown up. It was no surprise. The officer in charge, both officers are here. They both told me ahead of time they didn't anticipate him coming, and they did a lot of work trying to track him down, calling grandparents in Mississippi and everything, and he's.
Hold on for 1 second. Could you ask him to be quiet, please, for 1 second? I'm sorry, Miss Gillis. Grandparents and everything.
Anyway, so they made a really good effort trying to get this person here, trying to message his Facebook, calling grandparents in Mississippi, everything, and his whole family knew about it, so I'm sure he knew about it. He just I don't think wants to participate. So I am not ready. Here's my officer in charge. So I am not ready to go forward. I'm not prepared.
And given those representations, Your Honor, I would ask the court to dismiss the matter.
Motion granted. Anything else, Ms. Gillis?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Anything else, Ms. Longstreet?
No, thank you.
Thank you much. You have a good afternoon.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
By the way, I do like to, even though we had that much stuff coming up, your emails, that's like fresh. I do that.
Want me to turn this off?
Yeah, everybody's on.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Recording.
Oh, okay.